Good afternoon. Police Service Board Chair, members of the Police Services Board, Chief DeCare, Deputy Chief Leendertz, Deputy Chief Gert, members of the Police Service, ladies and gentlemen. The Chief's Pride Award, which is an acronym for a person who is really interested in delivering excellence, is given to members of the Hamilton Police Service who go above and beyond normal expectations. These are special acts of compassion, support, and quality service that are worthy of recognition. The Hamilton Police Service is proud to recognize Sergeant Scott Morton in relation to his assistance given to a flight from London, England to Toronto, Ontario. On Saturday, September 28th, during an Air Canada flight from London to Toronto, Sergeant Morton was traveling with 13 members of the 2015 Pan American and Para-Pan American Games security team. The final leg of the flight home departed Heathrow Airport in London at 6 p.m., with the group being dispersed throughout the aircraft for this 8-hour journey home. Approximately 2 hours into the flight, one of the passengers became involved in a dispute with the flight crew. This passenger was deemed intoxicated and was no longer being served alcohol. He became belligerent and aggressive, demanding more alcohol, blocking the trolley and reaching for the drawers containing the alcohol. When the flight crew attempted to stop this action, the passenger suddenly pushed one of the staff, and it appears as though he may continue his assaultive behavior. Sergeant Scott Morton was seated in the row directly behind this unruly passenger. Without hesitation, Scott stood up and intervened, directing the passenger to calm down, sit down, and retake his seat immediately. Scott quietly advised flight staff he was a police officer and asked them to move the cart out of the way. In a calm, however determined manner, Scott took control of the situation and continued to speak to the unruly passenger, who was now sitting down. After clearly diffusing the situation, Scott traded seats, sitting next to the passenger for the remainder of the trip. Once at Toronto Pearson Airport, he accompanied this passenger off the plane and provided an account of the incident to airport staff. Notes of thanks were received from 2 other passengers on the plane that saw Scott's actions that day, and there was a note received from Air Canada. As stated from the airline, had Sergeant Morton's intervention not taken place, the situation could have escalated, which may have necessitated a diversion, not to mention the probability of the safety of our passengers and crew being jeopardized. Scott, thank you for your level of professionalism and for going above and beyond in your efforts to ensure the safety and security of hundreds of passengers. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating the recipient of the Chief's Pride Award, Sergeant Scott Morton. Scott's family is up there, and a future police officer, his daughter, just had his hat on, so she's getting ready for next steps.
Can I please invite Superintendent Paul Morrison to come down to present the next Pride Award?
Chairman Morelli, members of the Police Services Board, Chief, deputies, ladies and gentlemen. As the Superintendent of Division 2, it's my pleasure to call upon 2 officers of my division to step forward, Chantel Wilson and Mark Morelli. On Sunday, December 8th, a 21-year-old woman was arrested on the East Mountain. While officers Mark Morelli and Chantel Wilson were effecting the arrest, a bystander taped the incident in its entirety, which was later posted on YouTube. The video went viral, as they say, and has received over 1.8 million views. This has prompted over 2,000 emails, voicemails, phone calls, and letters of support for our officers and for our service both locally and from around the world. Mark and Chantel, thank you for your professionalism and how you communicated to onlookers about the actions that you took. Every day, our officers deliver this type of excellence in policing, whether responding to hundreds of calls from our citizens or patrolling our streets. To an officer, they will tell you that it is this kind of arrest that takes place each and every day, every shift. The difference is that this one quite literally caught the world's attention when captured on video. We thank both of you for being exceptional ambassadors for our police service. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating the recipients of the Chief's Pride Award, Officers Mark Morelli and Chantel Wilson.
Officer Wilson and I have been asked to issue a statement to the media in lieu of questions, and I have ultimately arrived at this. The people of this extraordinary community have been so wonderful. We must first thank them for their kind words, emails, and support. As police service members, I can tell you that it's the greatest Christmas gift we could ever receive. Initially, both Chantel and I had reservations about speaking here today and being acknowledged for this particular event, feeling that each and every police officer deserves an award for the great job done day and night in the community for which they serve. After much discussion, we felt it necessary to accept the award on behalf of all the Hamilton police officers and officers around the globe. On a personal note, I can tell you that I stand shoulder to shoulder with some of the finest men and women I have ever had the pleasure of meeting, and I'm honored to be counted among them. You all make me very proud. Chantel and I keep getting asked if we have a message, and if we did, it would be a very simple one. Keep doing the fantastic job you do every day. The people are counting on you. It's not always easy, but that's exactly why you were chosen. The road is sometimes difficult, and it is not an easy life, but I know that you will rise to the occasion, you will achieve a higher standard, and become something for the communities to admire again. And to the citizens we have devoted our careers to, and the communities we all serve with pride, I would say this. We, the police, are people too, and we would ask that you would always remember that. Merry Christmas. Thank you for all your understanding and support.
Mr. Chairman, I know you're probably going to be a little shy about speaking up on this as Mark is your son, but just a brief comment that over and above the 1.8 million views, the part that makes me the proudest is when you Google honest cop, this is what comes up. And what better way for Hamilton Police Services being recognized than having honest people like you and Chantel perform this and have it captured on video so the world can see it. So on behalf of the board, thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I want to say that often you get a lot of news articles that sensationalize things and really doesn't reflect the positive image of the services that are provided. There was no prouder moment for me and many of the Hamiltonians to observe the YouTube clip that showed the patience, the tolerance, the professionalism, the commitment and dedication that Mr. Morelli and Ms. Wilson provided on that occasion. And the other issue and thing I've noticed is that Mr. Morelli was out of breath. Ms. Wilson did a professional job in keeping people out of harm's way. Their professionalism on that clip makes all Hamiltonians proud, and I want to thank you.
Thanks, I prefer not to speak to it. I'm proud of my son, as you know, and certainly the kids. And actually, it's been due to the upbringing of their mother. So, I know that one of the things that Mark wants to make clear to me was that really he only represents a large portion and what they do. And for me, that more and certainly reflected more of the philosophy that I've always spoken to him with, and certainly will continue to say before each shift that I see him, which is not often, don't mess up, so it'll probably not change. So thanks very much for all the attention, and certainly can tell you that we're proud. Thank you. Hearing none, I have the consent items. Are there any consent items that anyone wants to speak to? Deputation from? Oh, I'm sorry, Joey. I have a Joey Coleman, please. 2.6, please.
Okay, that seems, yeah, that's on. All right, I'm going to keep this short. This is follow-up to the deputation that I did in March on open data mapping. There was two members of the Police Services Board who were not present for that. One whom would be familiar with the points that I made because he started at council. Another is not. Basically, I'm calling on the Hamilton Police Service that if it implements crime mapping to do so in an open data format, in a format that protects the privacy of the citizens so that the citizens are not the product being sold, as is the case with crime maps at other police services, where a private company charges the police service a very low rate for the crime map. And the reason that rate is low is because the real product is not the service. It is collecting personal information about citizens who access that crime map. So strong privacy protections, and to have it in an open format that includes an open API that allows developers to build upon the service, the information, to provide the information on whatever device people seek it. Also, by having an open format and an open API, Hamilton police officers on the front line can sit down and have a good idea on how to use the data and program themselves. It does not require a costly consultant. When you have a closed system, you always end up with extra charges from the consultant. So that is just a follow-up of my deputation. I look forward to seeing what the chief presents today.
Are there any questions of Joey? Any further questions? Moved by Councilor Ferguson, seconded by Walt. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Terry, you're indicating a question? Chief, go ahead.
Chair and members of the board, Deputy Leendertz, Deputy Gertz, Senior Command Staff, ladies and gentlemen. Presentation of the 2014 budget marks the fifth budget that I proudly present on behalf of the members of the Hamilton Police Service. I want to start by thanking the women and the men of our Hamilton Police Service for their outstanding commitment to public safety, which leads this nation in policing services. Today, the Hamilton Police Service is very proud to present the lowest budget request in the last 14 years. From 2001 to 2009, 7 of 9 budgets were in excess of 4%, with the highest budget being almost 8% in 2003. 4 of 5 budgets that I have presented to this board have been under 4%. This 2014 budget ensures the service delivery level is maintained and the current staffing level is maintained. This budget is the funding requirement to maintain adequate and effective delivery of policing services in Hamilton as required by statute. The Hamilton Police Service remains committed to providing the members of the community with access to details pertaining to the ongoing budget discussions of the Hamilton Police Services Board. And our budget reports continue to be available to citizens through our website and are posted online at hamiltonpolice.on.ca. The public consumption of the information made available through multiple communications platforms, including social media, helps to inform, educate, and to engage our citizens. What has been clearly communicated to our great citizens over the last 4 years is the value of our members' work. Most people did not know the scope and sheer volume of our work that we do to restore order from chaos. While increasing enforcement and increasing arrests, we have made significant decreases in the crime rate, decreasing the crime severity index, decreasing citizen-involved collisions. We have found strategies to navigate people away from the justice system. We have communicated better through social media. We have completed a restructuring of the organization, and we have found efficiencies through our case preparations unit and our St. Joe's protocol, and we have finished our business process reengineering. We have also found the ability to bring forward the lowest budget request of 14 years. The request increase in funding is $4.2 million. The city requested that all agencies, boards, commissions, and divisions meet a 0% target for 2014. The board budget is comprised of 88% salaries and benefits directly under the control of the board. The service, that's myself, the deputies, and senior command, we do not negotiate the salaries and benefits of the service. The board does that work. 12% of the board's budget is directly under the control of this command. This is the funding that support the entire operation, for example, our fleet facilities and computer services. With a city request for a 0% target, this command, the portion of the budget that we directly are responsible for, in our best effort to meet the request of the city, are bringing forward a request for 0.35%. The 0.35 represents an increase of $485,000. Our commanders have done an excellent job of cost containment, cost avoidance, and alterations to service delivery to make the best effort and to meet the 0% request of the city, and we are within 0.35%. The actual need of our service is 3.65. We require investment in our human resources business process. We need to develop a much more robust time and resource management system. We need to develop electronic scheduling of officers, a program which will give us much more robust crime analytics is required within our business process, one that goes right across this organization. This is, in fact, what must be done in our service in order to continue to advance our strategic programs that are designed to pay off in continued reduced victimizations from crime. Today, the Hamilton Police Service makes recommendation to the board that you approve the 2014 Police Service operating budget with the lowest budget of 14 years at 2.98%. I have to thank our supervisors, our managers, our commanders, the deputies, for their diligent work in bringing in the lowest budget possible for your approval. We have heard the public's request to find efficiencies and to find savings where possible, but we have also heard not to cut services, not to withdraw our community programs and our crime prevention strategies, not to reduce our efforts with enforcement and impaired driving arrests that make our roads safer. This budget supports all current programming. The City of Hamilton has approved at Council GIC a 2014 assessment rate growth of 0.8% for the coming year. Taking into consideration the assessment growth, that rate, as is reported and utilized in many other jurisdictions in this province, the budget request of the Hamilton Police Service after assessment consideration is 2.18%. Our business planning process continues to be a leader in the province, and we have just received an award for the best annual report for 2013, a report based on our planning and reporting process. Over the last 5 budget presentations, this service has given out more information than ever before in our history, and you have been provided with a budget presentation book in preparation for today's meeting. We continue to face significant challenges stemming from legislative change, changing demographics in terms of victimization by criminals. Quite simply stated, the service cannot keep pace with the changing nature of crime in terms of new technology and the rapid expansion of technical crimes. Complex social determinants and crime require organized, focused, complex responses. The challenges of providing service to the vulnerable persons in our community is tasking police services at levels that are never seen before. Our city has fared better than many other cities when we have been voted the best city to invest in for our future. Building permit issuance, housing starts, and completions with a better unemployment rate than other cities is very encouraging. And Hamilton Police Service remain at the lower end of the spectrum for 2014 requests for funding. And when you consider assessment growth, we remain at the lower level, the lower end of the spectrum. It is not possible for the board to meet the city's request for a 0%. The board's required funding for 2014 for salaries and benefits is 3.14. The board obligations within the collective agreements produces the following pressures that are listed before you. The annualized cost of the new members from last year's budget is 0.57%. These new members have allowed us to maintain the expectation of service delivery to our citizens and all of our current programming. 0.35% is comprised of the areas you see listed before you. The city charges us for their services, and they have increased their fees this year by $145,000 in downloading to the service. Without the city download HPS, we would be coming in at 0.24 in our component that is under our control. We have required by statute to provide services in all areas. Our programming is strategic and built on a long history of success with our community partners. Outstanding achievements of the last 5 years: increased arrest, decrease in crime, no displacement or dispersion to other areas, administrative excellence in policy management with no recommendations being made to us in a recent ministry audit, 9 major awards earned for the citizens of Hamilton by our members, and their commitment to excellence is displayed. These are outstanding achievements. Every major performance measurement metrics shows extremely positive results. Crime rates are falling at a greater rate of decline than many other cities. Violent crime and total crime severity measures are in fact at the lowest levels that we have seen in our history. While very encouraging, Hamilton in fact has a long way to go with challenges of being still higher than the provincial averages in crime. And we are failing in our clearance rates when compared to other services as a result of our lower levels of civilian and back office staff for follow-up and investigative completions. Youth crime is trending down, but recently is seeing a spike that needs to be addressed. Profound decreases in violent crime are apparent through our deployments, our enforcement, our action strategy, and our drug enforcement, which is up 40%. You have seen this information before you before. But I remind you in relation to the violent calls for service, where we started in 2009. You can see the distribution of calls for service around the West End, the Central Mountain, and that's what we ended up with in 2012. So as we step back to have a look at that again, the violent calls for service, the question to be asked is, are we making a significant impact in crime? The answer to that, I think, is obviously yes. What is important as we look at these slides and moving forward as we move to the next topic, which is assault calls for service in 2009. Again, the hotspot analysis, West End, Central Mountain, the downtown core, you will see significant reductions from 2009 to 2012. This is the investment in policing. This is what we are supposed to produce. Not a response to crime, but in fact the absence of crime. And as we move to the final category, which is the robberies, this is probably the most profound area that we have seen decreases in. And again, from 2009 moving forward to 2012, significant decreases in the robberies. What is most important is you are also not seeing disbursement or displacement of crime and the creation of new areas that are drawing the resources and the attentions of the service. What you're actually looking at over the last 3 years is a reduction. The numbers before you speak for themselves in the downtown area. The next slide for Concession Street. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to end the presentation there because much of the material that is in your briefing book has been seen by the board before. If you look at as much information related to staffing, crime rates, the OMBI performance stats, we're happy to have a discussion in relation to all of that. In conclusion, I would like to recognize the efforts of Mr. Ted Mason, Mr. John Randazzo, Superintendent Mike Shea, Deputy Chief Leendertz, Deputy Chief Gert, and the members of all of our senior command for their contributions to the 2013 budget deliberations. Members of the board, the Hamilton Police Service makes recommendation that this board approve the lowest budget request of the last 14 years at 2.98%. The deputies and myself will make ourselves available for questions with our finance staff.
Hey, Lloyd?
Thank you, Mr.
Terry, you indicated earlier that,
I can
Terry,
Terry,
no,
go.
in all truthfulness, Terry did indicate earlier. Go ahead, Terry.
Thank you. Can I just ask, just for clarification on page, first of all, I want to say that it is one of the most palatable budgets I've seen sitting around this table, so I certainly appreciate all the hard work from all those involved and engaged in this process. On page 3 of 7, at the top, it has 153.4 million. Just to be clear, that is the gross budget, so that's including all other revenues and that, because I think our net budget is 144, is that correct?
Through you, Chair, yes, that is correct.
So the 153 represents the gross budget? 153.4?
That represents the total expenditures.
Okay. The next question I have is the page 6 of 7. Can I ask a question? Do we currently, our court cost originally was 4.9 million? Is that correct? So currently, when we ask for the operating budget from the city, part of that 144, the 4.9 million is currently being levied and paid for by taxpayers. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, with the uploading of the court cost, we received $700,000 in that range, about 4.57%. Was that for last year, or is this the second year or the third year of this transaction?
This is the second year's installment of the upload from the province.
So we're now looking at $1.4 million in additional revenue that we didn't have before the province came forward with this program.
In this budget, 704,000, but
So-
yes, over the last 2.
Okay. So is this, I'm trying to understand the transaction. So the province takes on the uploading of those costs, but those savings aren't reflected on the base budget. In fact, we continue levying for that. So I'm trying to understand how, from a procedural point of view, how that worked.
The $704,000 contribution of the province comes into the service as a revenue, and it is charged against a $4.9 million expenditure. That's correct.
Okay. In that 4.9, I presume that we're going to be looking at another couple $1 million in the next number of years. Are we going to be treating it the same? So is that going to be built to deal with additional pressures of police services, or is there any strategy in how we're going to spend those additional dollars going on a go-forward basis?
Need some clarification. Your first comment was that you're anticipating a couple of $1 million in expenditures in court security over the next few years. We don't have any basis for that. I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Sorry. The document on page 6 of 7 says that it'll be capped out in 2018 at 4.90 million.
Well, the upload will continue until it is a fully funded program of the province.
Okay. So the city will continue levying for that 4.9 for those what was associated to the court costs. The province is going to make up that 4.9 through the additional grant
Right.
to the police services, but there's no transference of that benefit to the taxpayer because it's maintained as a revenue source within the services. Is that correct?
Correct.
So the question I'm asking is, we received 1.4 million of that 4.9 that were expected by 2018. Have we already earmarked those dollars on a go-forward basis, those additional dollars?
The revenues come in are charged against the global expenditures of the budget. Are they earmarked for a specific program? No, they're put into the revenues to be charged against expenses.
Councillor, if I can interrupt. If you look on page 26 of Appendix D, you'll see the court security costs and the provincial upload.
Reiterate that this is one of the best budgets. I know that there's, I think Councillor Ferguson has some questions on another item, so I'm not going to duplicate it. Allow Councillor Ferguson to ask those questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to make a point, in terms of the length of questioning given the presentation, we want to meet a number of objectives. One is obviously receive and hear the presentation very clearly. We want to expedite that over a good period of time, and if there's questions over a good period of time. What you also need to know, though, that every question needs to be asked. And if this is not sufficient time after the presentation to do that, then we'll draw that line and we'll go to a subcommittee of some sort that can pursue it in more detail. So I think that's the best way, unless someone has another way of handling that. You should not hesitate to ask your questions and put them forward. But to deal with it in total, I think we need to also draw those two things to our attention. And in fact, it would make perfect sense to me if there was a subcommittee of something like this, the budget, which has just been received by you on Friday, and certainly may require some individual scrutiny that you may wish to pursue on your own, as well as come back to this table regardless of what the dates are. And I know those dates are put in place for a reason, but clearly I've seen dates are like plans sometimes. They just aren't held to. So I just want to make that point just as a point of instruction, and certainly moving forward we would take that approach. Lloyd?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And first of all, Chief Member Services, I sensed a big sigh of relief come over the city when 2.98% was announced. We're not going to go into this punching contest that we've experienced last year, and I think everyone's going to appreciate that. So first of all, congratulations on that. I think that we would all love to see zero, but we recognize, as we saw in the presentation, that 88% of the cost of running the police services, salaries and wages, and I like the way you sort of put that on us, but it's true, it is. That's our job. But you forgot about the next part, that there's a thing called binding arbitration after us that's out there also, which can impact, and we got to make darn sure that we have adequate reserves for whatever may or may not happen at arbitration. And I will have some questions for you about that, Chief, when we get in camera, because I know it's part of a negotiation issue. And Mr. Chair, I'd like to reserve that question for when we go in camera. I sent an email to Lois, I think it was sent through the Chief and also to John, about the reserves. This is my own first experience with the police budget, but typically here at the city, we get a reserve report, which is quite a comprehensive document. And I haven't seen that yet. I'm curious to know what we have in reserves. So will we be able to see that, first of all, through Mr. Chairman to the Chief? You have it here? And through you, I guess the right question is to John as our CFO. Did we take any money out of reserves in order to hit the 2.98% target this year, other than the tasers?
Through you, Chair, yes, we did. There's 150,000 from tax stabilization. We've reduced the transfer from capital reserve to 175,000 from 225.
This is
and
the first
vehicle-
operative had to see this. So A through E are the transfers that you've done in between 2013 and 2014?
You won't see that this is the reserve balance in front of you as of December 31st, 2012. If you're asking for the 2014 budget portion, we have...
Okay, you don't have a forecasted balance for 2013 and what impact do you expect on the
Not at the
reserves for
moment.
2014?
I do not have that with me right now, Councillor, no.
Is that available?
We won't do that work until the end of the calendar year to have those numbers for you. That work is yet to be done.
Right.
Okay, I'm
Councillor-
just trying, once again, this is just handed out to us. I'm
Sorry,
trying to
Councillor,
Analyze it real quick.
These reserve balances are part of the year-end process, and that's why they're not updated until the year-end process begins basically right now.
So maybe I can help with just a general statement about the reserve accounts as we've discussed here at this table before. You'll see that there's a number of balances there that are about $13 million in balances in 2011, about $10.5 million in 2012. The important piece of the discussion which needs to be recalled is that there is an unfunded liability within the sick leave and the vacation. Sick leave at about $19 million and vacation at about $13 to $14 million that go against that. So one might have a look at the reserve and say that there's a fair bit of money there. These are not what I would characterize as healthy reserves. And the other issue to keep in mind is that funding the operating budget through reserve is not a recommended practice for moving the organization forward.
And I absolutely agree. And I want to make sure we haven't done that to get to 2.98% for 2014. So I'll just ask that question head on then. Have you built in any transfers from reserves to the operating account in order to meet your goal of 2.98% for 2014?
Chair, yes, we have. It's summarized on page 1 of Appendix D.
Bob or D as in Don?
D as in Don.
Okay. It's on page 1?
Page 1. You'll see the capital reserve of 175,000. Vehicle reserve 125. And the tax stabilization at the bottom of 150. Our intention is to phase out the capital portion eventually.
Familiarize myself with the lines.
Under the revenue section,
Yes.
about halfway through, you'll see capital reserve, vehicle reserve.
So all these? Okay, is that typical to transfer these out of the reserve, then rebuild that reserve back up through the year? Vehicle reserve to me is you have one big shot when you buy the vehicles, but you replenish those reserves monthly throughout the year. Will we see that in 2014 for this capital reserve and for the vehicle reserve?
Just so you understand, on the vehicle reserve, we charge a set fee on all paid duties that involve a vehicle, and that fee goes into the reserve account. And so that allows us to purchase additional vehicles. That's why we always take about $125,000 to $150,000 out of reserves to help us do the new vehicle purchase every year. So we're actually funding that every month.
And We're quite familiar with that, at least the city council we are, because fire does that. To buy a new truck is a lot of money. Ambulances, where they charge X number of dollars per month, depending on which department it is, to the reserve fund and transfer the reserve and take it out when they do a major purchase. Okay, just so I understand this. So in order to hit the 2.98%, you had to transfer this money out of the reserves, and it will not be available to us in the future, or will you be replenishing those reserves through 2014? And I really wish I could have done these questions offline, but I couldn't get my hands around this capital, this reserve fund. I think Bernie may have suggested that we do a little side committee to go into these details, but that's the only question I have about this budget right now, is I want to get comfortable that there wasn't a big extraction out of the reserve funds in order to get the operating budget down to 2.98%.
For you, Chair, it's our intention to reduce the reliance on the capital portion of the reserve. If the year-end variance is a favorable variance, then we look to what the board's approval to replenish some of those reserves.
So you do that at year-end if you have a surplus?
That's correct. As Deputy Leendert stated, the police vehicle reserve gets replenished through our special duties portion of it.
We do the same thing in the city with a thing called the tax stabilization reserve. If we have surpluses, it goes in there, or the shocks that could hit the system throughout the year. Maybe what I'll do then, I just want to get my head around this. I would like to talk to you offline about it, just so I understand it better before I get final approval of this budget. I don't want to dominate the questions, Mr. Chairman.
What I suggest to you is I think that it's more than fair to say that through a small group or a group, get together once, get the group to look at this, to get complete comfort. Because we're not going to have the same circus this year that we had last year. And so,
and there's no need for that.
There'll be no need
we
for
come up with.
Yeah, so I think that it would be, actually to me, it makes perfect sense.
It's very interesting that the 15 new officers is offset by the uplift of the corps, so there's no impact for levy for that.
I see us receiving this presentation tonight with a few of the questions that people want to put forward. And then when we get to the actual operating budget discussion at 5.5, we make deliberations as to how we're going to handle it. That's what I would suggest we do. So if your question on this portion is concluded,
can I ask one more question?
Sure.
You have a 13% increase in fuel costs, which is a big part of your big driver. Is this something the city gives you a number to use on, or do you procure your own fuel?
No, we use the city, and they tell us what the price is, and that's how we budget accordingly.
So you're suggesting we're going to be facing a 13% increase across the city on fuel?
That is the assumption, plus also the increase. I don't know if Dan's here.
That is correct.
Fair number.
So it comes, just the city advises you, our energy group, what to carry. Okay, I'll take that up at the city level, and thank you.
Nancy, did you wish to?
Thank you, Chief. Through you, Mr. Chair. Chief, you mentioned in your presentation that there is a certain amount of money that is being downloaded to us through the city. Is it then my understanding that this downloading is coming to us through the city because of what's being downloaded to the city from the province? Is this sort of like a pass-along?
There's a number of reasons for the $144,000 that we have in additional expenses this year passed to us from the city. WSIB insurance, legal fees, the services of the city have been approved to be passed on to the organization. We don't get a say in that. We just get the bill. So we've now budgeted for that, and it's an additional $144,000 impact on this budget.
So it's pass along then, is that what I'm hearing?
Passed to us.
Okay, thank you. The second thing, Chief, I know that, through you, Mr. Chair, I know that one of the things that you talked about during the course of the year was to look at efficiencies. And I know one of the things that was done was the introduction of the case preparation group. Have we seen any efficiencies come about because of that?
The case prep unit was centralized, and our first analysis was the time of officers required to prepare a court case. On average, we produce about 7,000 court packages per year, and the average time was 4 hours and 17 minutes. We have been able to reduce that through the centralized process to about 1 hour and 4 minutes. Recouping that time off the back of the frontline officers. They go back out onto patrol, can do more enforcement, can do more community policing initiatives, more proactive work, and the centralized unit takes up that paperwork component. So we have seen significant changes there. Also, we have seen significant recovery in time with the St. Joe's protocol. St. Joe's protocol is the transference of responsibility for those that we apprehend primarily under the Mental Health Act and take them in to receive proper care. On average, we were about 2.5 hours per wait time per person, and we apprehend just under 2,000 people per year under the Mental Health Act. So we have now reduced that to 70 minutes. Our target is 1 hour, and we have recouped about 6,000 hours. The next component in business process reengineering that is paying off significantly is the niche team has developed the property module, and the property module, the electronic scanning of property, barcoding, putting it into the electronic technical world is saving much time in officer preparation of property that is being seized in all categories, and also the property staff themselves being able to categorize and store the material. We're seeing significant reductions there. So our business process reengineering continues to find efficiencies.
Madam.
Computer hardware. The computer hardware. Could you sort of walk me through a little bit on the increase in computer hardware?
If you have a look at Appendix B Appendix B on your chart, you'll see that in computer services there are increases. One of the major expenditures shows an increase of $340,000. The line that's at line 52 of Appendix B.
Right.
Line 53 of Appendix B, $79,000 expenditure there for the updating of the CAD system. Repairs and communications below that at line 54. So while on Appendix B you do see significant increases there, I draw your attention to Appendix C, which is the chart which summarizes the decreases. And you'll see within computer services, you will see there is very significant decreases of $297,000 in reductions of software, $130,000 on the network switching upgrade, $100,000 attributable to computer purchase versus lease, and we're saving in the corporate decision to purchase versus lease. So while the expenses do seem to increase in Appendix B, they're almost offset by the same dollar amounts, about $600,000 in the decreases that have been found as well.
During the business plan, when we had in the community, when we had our community consultations, and we heard from many of the officers and the frontline people saying that we needed really to improve our computer system. So that's the kind of things that I was looking for. That moving forward in this purchase here and all this new hardware, will we be indeed bringing our computers a little more modernized and more efficient in so that the men and the women are more comfortable with the.
I think on that's really a two-part issue. One is the acquisition, the development and installation and use of hardware, and the other is the software development and making the programs more user-friendly and being able to produce information that is more useful to senior management in making corporate decisions and the challenges. And I would draw your attention to Appendix A, which is the budget report. the report proper, and on page 5 down at the bottom, you will see that there is a list of what is not included in the budget, that we will make application to the board to access capital reserve because of the priorities that are in place for our service. This command for 4 years has addressed the structure of our organization, our business strategies, the development of the skills of our people, and the systems. We have identified the need to develop our systems at a much greater level, and the time and resource attendance management system, the crime analysis system are very, very significant next strategic steps for this organization to put in place so that we can get at the senior levels of the organization access to much more detailed data to be able to look for efficiencies in deployment and strategy. And I think the biggest one that we have to work on is the crime analysis. The board in November approved the restructuring of the organization and moved positions into the crime analysis unit. Those positions are in fact moved within this budget. You will have seen some positions moved. Industrial relations, I'll give you that as an example. That position has been taken away and moved over to crime analysis, and there are 4 positions that have happened. What we need to do is we need to have more strategic, more tactical, and more grassroots crime analysis available for our officers right down into the mobile data terminal in their car so that they can see what is going on in much greater detail to give them a better effort to be successful in their patrols.
Barry?
Mr. Chair, this is more of a comment than a question, and it's going to be directed to you. There's an increase on the Police Services Board of 1,500%, and it's charge of $75,000 that could have been delayed for 2 years and could have made this budget even less than it is. So I just wanted to make that comment publicly.
Thank you. Terry?
I just want to get some clarification from some of the questions that were asked on the reserve. I was looking at the city reserve on sick leave and vacation. I think it's around $3.6 million. So the police, and obviously the city is a much larger entity than the police services. And I think I heard the comment that this may not be classified as a healthy reserve. The comment I actually heard was there's a $19 million liability. So I think for the public and for our benefit, I need to understand what that liability is associated with. Is that if they shut down tomorrow, this is what you need to pay out?
Through you, Chair, yes, that's correct. There was an actuarial valuation done by the City of Hamilton, and that they calculated that potential $19 million.
So we don't expect the police services or the city to shut down anytime soon, is that correct?
That's correct.
So I guess my concern is in the private sector, the concern on liability, unfunded liability, is that there's a chance they could go into Chapter 11, bankruptcy, and there's unfunded liability. We've seen that at U.S. Steel and so forth. I just don't know if you can use the same terms in the public sector operations, especially when you're talking about core services such as policing. So again, when I look at the $19 million actuary liability, and that's on the thesis that if you shut down, this is what you would have to pay out. The question now clearly becomes, and when I look at the fact that this reserve is much higher than the city's, the question is this a healthy reserve or not?
I think that's a dangerous analogy to use, and the reason for that is all that needs to happen is at the bargaining table there be an effort to put in place a different sick leave coverage package and have a discussion around what happens to that bank. And I think you'll find very, very quickly that a sick leave bank of $5.5 million is not even going to come close to covering the expenditures if the negotiations went in that direction.
So you're indicating that there's a greater exposure through contract with the police services than there is with the city. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think in our police world, I think there's a very real danger, depending on what we're seeing in the other sectors about sick bank entitlements and how they're being eliminated. It depends on how the business process around that elimination takes place. That will give you the answer to whether that's healthy or not.
Okay. Do we know what best practices are, Mr. Chair, through whoever can answer it? What percentage, or what, is there a formula, is there a calculation? What determines whether that there's adequate or a greater than need in a reserve? And we're talking about this one specifically, but I'm trying to understand, how do you determine what that right balance is?
I think it would be the demand against the available funds.
Okay. So my understanding, Mr. Chair, help me if I'm right, what was the activity? So what have we drawn down on this particular reserve in the last 2 years?
On the sick leave reserve, as we reported, and for the 2012 year-end variance, approximately $286,000 of the deficit was paid from the sick leave reserve.
And that's all we've drawn in 2 years?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Then I'm in the hands of the board, but I'd make a brief comment that I thought the presentation was excellent tonight. I believe that it reflects the fact that I believe that we're moving in the right direction. And as outlined earlier, there may be further questions. So at this point, I would expect that we would at least receive this budget and proceed to 5.5, and we'll discuss it in further detail with some direction as to how to bring it into a total conclusion. So can I get a motion, if that's agreeable to all of you, can I get a motion to receive? Terry, seconded. Lloyd, any questions? All those in favor? Carried. And thank you to Chief, to you and staff for the presentation.
Why are we just receiving?
You have to receive all presentations. We're going to
receive it.
5.3.
Okay. Receive it, and then if you look closely, it's discussion in 5.5. We're trying to avoid the chaos that occurred last time, so I think that helps. If you look at, are there any declarations of interest? Hearing none, I would then move to the consent agenda. Are there any consent items that you wish to draw forward? Lloyd?
Well, I would like to talk about 4.6C from the letter from Carolyn Biggs, saying that by January the 10th, they need 40 copies of the budget for the presentation of boards and agencies. So if there's an interest in deferring this until we set up a budget meeting, you suggested, Mr. Chairman, this is break coming. I don't know how we hit those dates unless we can meet sometime in the next couple of days. Because when the Christmas shutdown on December 24th, I know the city's not back till the 11th, so around that first week of January. Maybe we should discuss this under the budget discussion. But I just want to get my head around it. This is part of the correspondence.
We have gone through a process before. Terry, you want to?
Well, I did talk to the clerks, Mr. Chair, this afternoon to Mary Gallagher, and because Carolyn wasn't available, and they indicated that we've done it in the past. There's no issue here. It's not entrenched in stone. Things could be changed. In fact, they reminded me last year is exactly what we did. So this is not something that's certainly entrenched in stone, and there's flexibility.
So it's just what we'll do is, Lloyd, we can discuss it again under 5.5, but we can certainly, I think, follow that protocol. Certainly not to do everything like last year. Okay, then if that's, are you sufficient with that answer, Lloyd? Okay, are there any other items that anyone wishes to disturb?
Yeah, can I just ask, I mean, these are automatic and they're just assumed, and I respect that, but even with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, when membership fees went up, I would often ask, look, I need you to quantify why it's going up. So when I look here, I think it's 2.4% per year, automatic increases, but there's unfortunately no background to reflect where the pressures are and what is driving that 2.4% increase on an annualized basis. Now, we're talking small dollars here, Mr. Chair, but, like I was taught, if you take care of the pennies, the dollars take care of themselves. Clearly, there's no rationale for the increase in the documentation we received other than they're going to be increasing it by X. So I would only ask, I don't have a problem today, and of course if we put this off, my concern is tomorrow. whether we can clear the process so when those requests are being made, that we get the supporting documentation so we better understand as a board why they're making that request. So I just wanted to highlight that, Mr. Chair.
Maybe I could, I know that Nancy could provide a very quick answer to that, but maybe in the future with the reports, we'll just give an additional brief statement as to what affects the change. I can certainly see that happen at agenda review or whoever. Okay.
Which report is that in relation to, please?
The Ontario Association of Police Service Board, Chief. 4-4.
Yeah, thank you.
So what we'll do in the future is just include.
I'll address that offline.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Yes?
So I move the
State of this. Lloyd, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you. We now move to transition into an improved roadside screening device, 5.1. Terry's moving that 5.1. Can you get a seconder? Irene?
Can I just make a comment, Mr. Chair?
Absolutely.
Clearly that this particular tool is one that is much further advanced than what we've used in the past. It shows efficiency, saving time of staff time and calibration and so forth. So clearly this is a no-brainer and I certainly support it. Thank you.
Okay. I will move to second. Any further questions? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Flag 2. Lloyd?
Yeah, this was a topic of discussion in our last board meeting, and I just want to publicly thank Lois and the Clerks Department for working through a lot of conflicts. I was asked to meet with clerks, which I did, but all I did is put them in touch with Lois. My job was easy, and I assume these dates work with everybody. I think it's important that these meetings are held here. We're getting some good crowds, and there's lots of space. It has access for the disabled. And I know it'll take a little bit of a shift in culture to get used to this. It's the right thing to do, so I'd like to move the dates and the location.
Lloyd, Irene?
I'm not seconding.
Okay. Walt?
I have a question.
Okay, it's on the floor. Then I get Lloyd and Walt moving it and seconding it, and it's on the floor.
Mr. Chair,
Any questions?
Just got one question. October 20th. So this, and I know the Governance Committee for the City of Hamilton, we rejig the schedules based on past experience during election period. October 20th is, I believe the election is October 27th. So I'm just a bit concerned about, it's just a week before the election, whether that's an appropriate date to be hosting the board meeting, and I'm just putting that out for discussion. And I know that we've made those changes at the city level because of the past experience of being able to get people out at that time frame.
I'm not sure what you were suggesting. You suggested we move from the 20th, or?
Well, yeah, either we move the 20th or we perhaps do without the 20th altogether, if that's even practical.
Just cancel at the time we need to.
I think if it's a question of canceling it, then I would think it's closer to the time that could.
Fine.
Okay, we deal with it then.
Fine.
If it's a matter of doing something specific because of some special event, I'd do it now. But I think let's leave it, and as we get closer, we'll.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Irene?
We were supposed to evaluate how we felt about meeting at City Hall at this meeting. I'd just like to make a comment that I was really disappointed tonight. The people that received awards and accolades, that we didn't personally get to congratulate them. I think that was a faux pas. Also, why is our meeting in January on a Tuesday?
I don't know, the changes were made for some reason, and you can answer here.
The council chambers on Monday the 20th are being used by the Hamilton Catholic School Board, or actually, sorry, Hamilton District School Board for their regular meetings. It was changed to the Tuesday to be able to utilize council chambers that day.
Oh, the others but the others are to do with holidays. But this one next month, I'm not sure how the police service feels of changing a meeting from a Monday.
Well, I mean, it's a good question, and if you want to put it to a vote and further discussion, I have no difficulty with that. Personally, for me, it's not a problem, but obviously if it presents it for others, then we should maybe vote on it. Or with your will.
The service takes no position on the day or date of the meeting. We'll show up when the board tells us to show up.
It's the board's meeting. It's the board's meeting.
But is this going to keep happening when this facility is not available? We're going to have to change our date?
Well, I think I can't tell you what's going to keep happening, but I can tell you that we're going to make sure that we avoid this keep happening. That's all I can tell you. Yeah, Lloyd, you want to address it?
Just on that, I think that what the school board's plans are to move to their new facility in July of 2014. These dates are locking down in the entire 2014 year. It won't have the same issues with their conflicts in 2015 and beyond.
Nancy?
I think the important thing is that there may be some of us on the board who already have been locked into a meeting on the 21st. So is this board prepared to hold a meeting without quorum if it comes to that?
Well, first of all, this board can't hold a meeting without quorum. Secondly, we have to make sure there's quorum. So is that, been any checking out quorum for that date?
Just do straw vote now.
Pardon?
Do a straw vote now, so you have quorum.
I just want to make sure that we're trying to accommodate everybody. I mean, obviously, Monday has been a scheduled meeting time. Just creates some difficulty. The only ultimate way to deal with it is to vote for it. But
Mr. Chair?
Yeah?
I'm going to call the question because we're sort of dancing around it. I think that what's before us is good in continuation of City Hall. I move that motion, second by Walt. So that's on the table now, so we can put it to bed one way or the other.
The motion that's currently on the table is?
Approve the meeting dates here at City Hall. Moved by myself, second by, I can't pronounce his last name, so I have to call him Walt. Mr. Chair, so that's now formally on the table.
Okay, I got a motion on the table. Which on the table?
I think we have the authority to comment. I, for example, am not available on the 21st. So a date has been changed from one that was scheduled in my calendar, and I took it for granted that that date was what our board meeting was going to be. Now it has been moved. So I have the rights, I believe, to state that.
Absolutely. And that's why I said that, any comments. There's no question. So we have a motion on the floor. Do I have further comment or concerns? Hearing none, then I would move the question. All those in favor? So all those against? It's carried. Okay. So that's the meeting schedule. I would only encourage people to, if they can, to deal with any changes that pro or con that this schedule inflicts on them, that they still try to get around it by altering your schedules. I'm not too sure it'll ever be perfect, but I would just say that right now. Okay, if we go to 5-3, and Terry, I can forward. Okay, go ahead, Terry.
Yes, Councilor, Mr. Chair, we have this 5.3 is the media policy. I did talk about creating a policy committee. I currently vice chair the governance committee for the City of Hamilton with Russ Powers. We look at policy and procedure. So it makes sense to fold that into a governance committee. I do have a motion here before us that could take a look, and this would be part of the review. Moved by myself, second by...
Do you have a copy of that motion? The staff? Hold it. I mean, obviously, look, obviously there's some bones to be picked here, but not now. We're trying to get off on it. Now, has this been taped up for everyone? Do we have a copy of that?
I don't have a copy of that.
Oh, he's going to... Okay. So we need a copy of that, obviously, yep, for the rest of the other members of the board.
Well, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay, well, read it out.
Moved by myself, second by board, Jusewich, I get it right one of these days, Request that the Hamilton Police Service Board endorse the creation of the Governance Subcommittee to review all policies and procedures of the Hamilton Police Services and come back to the board with any recommendations for changes or any amendments. That the subcommittee would be made of no more than 3 board members as outlined below. Provincial appointee Madeline Levy, citizen appointee Walt, and Councillor Whitehead. That's the motion.
Is on the floor. And is there a seconder for that motion?
Yes.
Chair, if I heard the councillor correct, the motion is to review the policies of the Hamilton Police Service?
No, board.
You didn't say board. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, it's purely a board.
Well, seconding this.
So I have a seconder.
Yes.
Now, are you going to speak to it, Terry? Or?
Well, Mr. Chair, it's clear that in any organization there should be a renewal. We should look at policies, ensure they're current, look at best practices, look at what other boards are doing, and make the adjustments accordingly. It's clear that in the last number of years there's been a real desire to have more open and transparent government. That might be part of the procedural bylaw to ensure that we try and meet and balance the needs of the board as well as the concerns of the community from a transparency point of view. I think that this is certainly timely, Mr. Chair, because I looked and we haven't had this review for fairly lengthy time. And this is pretty straightforward governance work. This is not strategic planning, which clearly that's a separate entity. This is clearly about looking at what we have. Do we have all the areas covered? Do we want to make changes? Is it doing what we expect it to do? And whether we should make the appropriate procedural changes in regards to calls of meetings when information goes out. So for those reasons, and the reason for the number, Mr. Chair, obviously you want to have an odd number because it's a subcommittee and things may come to a vote, and those recommendations would come back to this board for final approval. So at the end of the day, the board has ultimate decision in making the decision on any recommendations that come from the subcommittee, Mr. Chair. If you remember, we did canvass in the past, and I know that there's a number that put their hands up. I tried to recognize that through, I know Madeline had suggested that she would love to sit on the policy committee. This is just an extension of the policy committee, which makes sense. If she wants to step down and we can find somebody else on the board that's prepared to stand on the board, I'm perfectly okay with that, Mr. Chair.
Any comments? Comments? Further comments? Irene?
I had asked to serve on that committee.
Where's that arena in here?
She had asked to serve on that committee. No committee's been set yet, so
Well, I know that.
we don't even know whether we're going to have a committee yet.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's important as a board that we look at our priorities. I think it's an overarching that we have a discussion around strategic direction, priorities, and what does that look like? It would look like having subcommittees to look at governance issues or policy issues. It would have someone look at HR issues, budget issues, these kinds of things. I think we've never had that discussion around what are the priorities that we need to look at in many areas, as other boards do. I've gone to many of the, and training is actually one of them, and also there's a matrix on what kind of skill sets that people have. I've looked at a lot of these policies that other boards have. I've been to the Ontario Police Association of Boards. They all have policies around all of these things. But I think first and foremost, our board needs to look at what are our priorities, and I think a discussion around that is very healthy. I do have a very strong interest in developing policies. And after having a fulsome discussion on our strategic direction, I think that would come out, and we could look at that as well. There was discussions last time, and I know that Nancy was interested, Lloyd was interested, Irene. Again, to sort of name a committee where you have 3 people that may not have a good fit in terms of how that goes. I think that's another consideration, and so I'm saying that we should have a discussion around setting priorities for ourselves. Thank you.
I just, if I may comment, first of all, respectfully, your comment about there hasn't been much discussion around here about the governance. Go back to Carver. I could give you the historic background right up. There's always everlasting discussion on those types of things, governance, Carver, OAPSB. I guess what we need to do, though, we can go to that model again and start all over. We have a 6-year cycle now for board members, and probably somebody that shows up in the 7th year will say they've never heard about it before around this table. So that's sort of we need to deal with what you said. I think we also need to deal with this issue that's on the table somehow, which is a media policy. To me, it's always been very clear. If somebody needs to speak on behalf of this board and deals purely with board issues, then the board chair will speak to it. If you are asked a question or you're involved in an issue that's not been at the board table and has not been discussed at the board table, and to even go as far as that you haven't participated in it at the board table, then it's always been acceptable to us that it not be in your purview, that it be lay with the individual who sat in the chair. So that's been the policy as I see it. If it differs from what those here see it, I can only tell you that's the way it's operated from my perspective successfully for a long time. Now, if we want to sit down and redraft something, I have no difficulty with that. And I don't think it's a huge issue. I don't think it's an issue that's going to take out a whole lot of our priorities that we have on our plate. But I'm in your hands, and I think it needs to have a good mix at the table. And I'm open to any suggestions. Suggestion today is with a motion which I think should be circulated. Even when I saw that, yes.
So I suggest perhaps that we move it in camera, and we can iron these things out and personality, and the rest of it. So let's do it that way. I move that.
Well, hold it. Let's figure out what we're going to do.
Point of order, Madam Chair. This is what we're trying to get away from, is in-camera discussions on open issues. So clearly this is an open discussion. I put it in an open and transparent public setting so that we can have this debate, Mr. Chair.
And that's really the challenge. That's really the challenge that you've got, is if you want to put it in camera, again, go to a vote right here. But to go in camera is something that we're struggling with each and every day, and obviously we're under, constant pressure to make sure we adhere to those rules. I might just ask, can I ask briefly if it's maybe even appropriate to ask of our council whether it's something that would go in council or shouldn't go in council?
I think that's for the board to make the determination, not for the service.
Okay, so the board needs...
Chairman, I think we need to try to get closer to unanimity on this thing. I sense a division, which makes me uneasy. I think it'd be good to have some offline conversations. So I wonder whether the mover and seconder are just to table this until the next meeting to see if we can work through these. If we don't, we'll have to put it to a vote tonight. I agree, it's not something that should be done in camera. This is very...
I think there's a couple of things that would give some good support to that. And that's that it supports both sides of where we lie in the equation. And secondly, we may want to seek some advice legally. And it's clear to me that somebody's drawing the line in the sand as to who counsels who. And we need to get that straight too down the road. That would be a priority for me tonight too. So I think that's an option. So it's just part of this discussion. Walt?
Mr. Chairman, taking something offline or in camera, especially when we're going to be doing policy reviews, I think this should be as transparent as possible. As a citizen appointee, I think I owe it to the people I represent to have this as open as possible.
I think others do too. Sure, I'm in your hands. There's a motion on the floor.
Call the question.
Call a question.
I'm going to declare I'm not on that committee, so it's Walt now and Lloyd, and he should.
Well, the fact that the fact that you're not on the, you haven't accepted to be on the committee.
No, absolutely not.
I think the offline recommendation or online, or defer it for table it for one meeting.
Yeah, I'm going to move a tabling motion for the next meeting, and if I can get a second to that, but I'll wait to see if I can get a second to that, honestly. The reason I want to do this is, I think Walt's absolutely right that we've got to be as transparent as possible, so we're not going to make a decision offline. We're just going to have a conversation about what it should look like. And then we can have a full debate at the next board meeting right here in public.
Mr. Chair, I appreciate what you're trying to achieve here. I mean, this is an example of what I call red tape. We have an issue that's pretty clear. We have, this is an issue when we sat on council and dealt with the creation of governance board. We didn't go through all these imaginations. We made a decision. People stood up and said, yes, I want to sit on the committee. We moved the motion and we created the subcommittee. I don't know why this is so difficult and why we're playing around with it. If you want to table it because some people feel that they're not happy with their membership, so be it. I'm prepared to sit back and review that, Mr. Chair, but I will be revisiting this motion at the next board meeting.
Okay, so the motion that would be made would be to table.
So next board meeting.
Yeah, and I think if we do things, if you want to refer to how things are done, often you need to sit down and talk to people that you feel might want to be on the committee.
Mr. Chair, just on that, I did make a number of phone calls. I just don't get them returned. Thank you.
Okay, no, I'm not penalizing you. I just want to make sure at least we make an effort to.
Mr. Chairman?
I just need to tell you right now, we should defer this to the next meeting. And I can tell you that we can defer to the next meeting. And at that time, there'll be opportunity for those that have a position to certainly talk to whoever. And I certainly will talk to whoever. I want it to be out in the open as well. And I certainly will be prepared to come in here at the next meeting here on both sides. I didn't know that. I'm not sure, but I think that let's come back and defer it, table it for one meeting, Terry, and it certainly moves in the direction of trying to get through this. I also want to make clear that we should be seeking this question, and also to the clerk, we need to add to this, we need to talk about who's our legal advisors. And I want to get that very clear right now, because I'm going to be told every meeting that I don't have a legal advisor, because I guess we have one for the service and one for, although I thought the board hired our legal counsel. Maybe I don't know how to check that out. So we need to go through that process as well. So if I got it, you're withdrawing your motion, is that correct?
No, we're tabling.
We're tabling, okay. So Lloyd, can I get a second for that? Nancy? All those in favor then of the table? Carried. Thank you very much. Okay, we're moving right to 5.4, which is, I believe, the taser item, Chief. Thanks.
Chair and members of the board, the recommendation before you is that the board approve the use of the OMERS Type 3 account, which I have previously explained to the board. And I do acknowledge that the president of the Hamilton Police Association, Mr. Mike Thomas, is here, and the president of the Senior Officers Association, Inspector Jamie Anderson, is here. We have received their consent regarding the use of the funds as outlined in the report. And item B, that the board approve the issuance of CEWs to all frontline officers. And the last board report that came forward was conditional on deputations being received from the public. Those deputations were received, and all people that wanted to speak were heard by the board. And the last recommendation is that the deputy come forward from Field Support Services in 1 year to report to this board on all of the issues that present themselves with the issuance of the taser and the associated policy training and deployment use.
Lloyd. Yeah, to you, to the Chief. Chief, I just want to be sure that any impact in 2015 and beyond budgets are not part of this resolution, and that will be debated during the 2015 budget discussions.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'll move the report. Lloyd will move the report. I'll second it. Nancy, any questions, further questions? Jerry?
Mr. Chair, I want to thank those that came out and spoke to this particular item. There was two pretty good themes that came out of that. One was is the training, and that the importance of ensuring that the officers get the type of training that's necessary to exercise this particular energy weapon. I think the other piece, Mr. Chair, was the cost. I think that's been covered off through the presentations of the OMAR's contribution from both associations. So it's pretty clear that at least in the 2014 budget, there's no increase or levy impact as a result of this decision. But what also came out, the second theme actually was the insurgence of the lapel cameras. So I would certainly thought that is an item, that's a tool that's being used, I believe, in Edmonton, Calgary, and I believe in the States. There might be other areas. I don't know if the jury's out on it, but at the appropriate time, I will be asking us to take a high level, not a detail level, but certainly a high level, what is taking place, where is it taking place, what is the cost, and is there any benefits being realized in those jurisdictions where they're exercising the lapel cameras. It's a bit early to make it a companion piece because I think it's still a fairly new technology and there's fairly significant costs, so I'm not going to tie in the companion piece to the tasers. I just want to highlight that that there was a general theme on at least looking at it and the feasibility of it in the future. There was a couple individuals that, and certainly one particular in that consultation, that a question was asked, I believe, by the vice chair, who was the acting chair that day, whether or not they felt that the conducted energy weapon would be the difference between the death of the family member or not. And the answer was profound. It was pretty clear that from that individual who's here with us tonight, and God bless her, that she felt that there was a good chance that if that device was handy in the hands of that day with proper training, that her husband could probably still be with us here today. So that was certainly something that was lasting in my mind when I left here, and I think it's important when you look at our frontline officers that we give them all the tools they can within a reasonable cost and to the taxpayer of this community, because we've got to balance those interests. I think this report does that, so I will be supporting the report here today. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, and then I would, Madeline?
I just wanted to just speak for a moment about the body.
You want to speak right into the mic, man.
I just wanted to speak for a moment about the body-worn cameras. So they are being used right now as a pilot project in Edmonton. Last year it started. They're 1 year into it. Vancouver, actually, their board about a month ago looked at this issue as well, brought it before to look at body-worn cameras, and it was turned down pending waiting for this report. So Edmonton received a grant, a federal grant. It's about $500,000 pilot project to wear these cameras. There's a lot of issues around civil liberties, privacy, a whole bunch of issues around cost. I don't know what the status is of our audio transcription department and administrative people on that. I mean, that's a huge cost that will be inferred or downloaded on that. Edmonton has made with the grant from the federal government, they're going to do this study. They have not said in any reports that they will continue with this. It's not a guarantee that it will happen. They will just study this, and with the money that we receive from the grant, we'll be reporting this as a template for others to use at the end of the year, next year. Calgary is doing the same, very, very small, 20 cameras as well, just to get an idea. But again, there's a lot of hurdles around civil liberties, privacy issues, whether to go into a house. I mean, there's a whole study. I've read a number of studies on this as well. But again, I think at the end of the year, like Toronto too, Toronto's looking at the same thing. I mean, they've tried different cameras as well. I mean, people are grappling with this. But again, there are hurdles to this, administrative costs, there's privacy issues, there's manpower issues. And again, to take officers off of one group to put into this sort of is what they're all looking at. So again, it is something that we could look at when this report is made known at the end of the year, and to see the feasibility and the costs and let them, work out all the kinks and the bugs, and we can see at the end of that whether or not we want to go in that route.
I hear you correctly. You're collaborating and agreeing with Terry on that one.
I'm just saying we could look.
No, I just want to make that point. I thought there was some levity in the room. Okay. Motion on the floor. Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
That was unanimous for the record.
And unanimous. Okay, we'll go on to the operating budget. But you've seen the presentation of, and there has been some.
I suggest that we receive the budget with the recommendations you made to set up 3 individuals to vet any further questions, and then redress this by the 21st of, I think that's our next board meeting, January 21st, and then for final approval by this board.
Can I get a seconder to that? Any questions?
Just so I'm clear through you to Terry, you did talk to the clerks, because this takes, our next board meeting is past Boards and Agencies Day. And all the boards and agencies come in, so they're going to call a special meeting of General Issues Committee to hear the police presentation. It's tough to get a quorum.
I talked to the clerks. They said there's no issue. We did it last year. They said they didn't have to go very far to use an example. The actual meeting is set for the 23rd, so it's actually after the 21st.
Okay. So the motion on the floor. All those in favor? Sure. Thank you. Did I apologize to you for the presentations that got a little bit confusing, Irene, and I know you didn't get an opportunity to congratulate them. I'll talk to the clerk about that and make sure that we can get something out from each and every one of your expressions. I think you didn't get an opportunity. I thought you expressed this disappointment, just to be careful, that you didn't get an opportunity to congratulate those that were presented with awards tonight. And I apologize, because that would be my fault. It's out of this board's meeting, so and I chair it, so I apologize. And wanted to make that clear, and we'll somehow try to rectify that with a personal note that it will get drafted through the clerk's office. Thank you. Having said that, is there any new business?
One item of new business, Chair.
Go ahead, Chief.
The Hamilton Police Service has partnered with the Chinese Association of Hamilton, and we will be celebrating with the community the Year of the Horse on Saturday, January the 18th, 2014, right here at City Hall at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and everyone is welcome to join us in our partnership with the local community. Thank you.
Okay, are we bringing our 4 horses? As the care. Councilor Ferguson.
Yeah, I heard us defer the budget until the next meeting, and 3 people on budget committee. Do we have the names of those? I would volunteer.
Terry? Paul? Who else would like to sit? No? Budget? Irene? Lloyd? Yep. Okay, there you go. I have the 3.
Thank you.
That's what those 3.
Mr. Chair, are we still under general information in the public?
We're under new business.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Chair, I just again, for courtesy of for my colleagues, I have talked to and have had discussions with the city as well. I will be moving a motion at council that looks at the police services audits. Currently, they're consolidated audits. The library board, for example, is an independent audit. The housing, which is a separate legislation, but again, it's an independent audit. We're at a budget now of 150 or 144 million. Clearly, we're at the point now that I think it behooves us to pursue an independent audit, and so I just wanted to serve notice that I'll be doing that at council in January.
Okay. Thank you for that. Any other questions? Then I would move a motion to adjourn. Irene, Madeline, all those in favor, carried. Thank you. Thank you, folks. We'll reconvene in 8 minutes.